Hey, thank you for joining us for this extra tech talk. I'm joined today with Pete Bartz from the Solution Engineering team. We wanted to take a little bit of time to kind of review uh, the Cisco IOS-XE vulnerability and kind of what's gone on here at Park Place the last couple of days, and how that's come out for Entuity users. Obviously, there's a lot of these different vulnerabilities that release every day, and we don't have this kind of response to them. So I think the first real obvious question is why this one and not some of the others that have happened in the past? How do we choose? And I think really that comes back to twofold. One, the impact and risk here, right? Routers being the primary affected device type, and then being on the internet. Two, our managed services team was in the process of responding um, to finding out about this vulnerability and going through the devices that we have under management. And we looked for a way to use Entuity to speed up and document that process. And what we ended up putting together for our internal teams, we liked it well enough. We thought it was important to release for all Entuity customers and could be valuable. Um, and so we just wanted to talk a little bit more about that, what's actually going on. And so Pete, why don't you get us started with, what's actually happening under the covers here um, with the release last Friday.
Yeah, once we actually identified the vulnerability and we found that there's a way to actually detect that, what we decided to do was to generate an extension to the Cisco monitoring. It's a configuration file. And we built a configuration file that actually looks specifically for the devices that are IOS-XE. So, it's
So
going
we're
to
not
go
going
through.
to beat up the entire environment
No, no,
and crush the network looking for a vulnerability on storage arrays that only
yep,
affects. Great.
exactly. Focus on the things that you need to. So, the configuration file, just like other configuration files in Entuity, are things that is one that you can actually install on the system. I'll talk about that. But really, the way that this works then is a couple passes. So the first pass is filter on just the IOS-XE devices. The second pass is for those devices, identify if the web server is running. So TCP port check, identify if you've got a web server that's up and running. If it's not up and running, obviously you're not going to have a vulnerability. The third piece of that is really important then too, is we're leveraging a curl command to look for the appropriate string response. It's all identified in the Cisco side for the vulnerability and how they identify it, but we're looking for that string as a response. If the web server's up and running and that string comes back during the polling, then you've actually got a case where the implant's been detected. So you could have a case where there's no vulnerability because there's no web server. You could have a case where the web server's up and running and you don't have, at least at that point, any vulnerability in implant in the system. And then obviously the ones where we've already detected it. So the configuration set up to run on an hourly basis. So there's cases where customers will put this in place and it might take a couple hours to actually get the devices modeled properly, but it's all automated. And we've actually built a dashboard to expose the output of this.
Oh, that's great.
Let's take a look at it. So it's a dashboard. So for customers who want this, open up a support ticket. Support will send you the configuration file along with the instructions on how to put it in. It's just like any config extension in Entuity. The way Entuity is actually built is to do it this way. And then this dashboard actually via the web UI actually import the dashboard and set it up on the system. But we're going to go through a list and detect all of those devices that are running the proper versions of iOS, and then identify whether or not there's a vulnerability or not.
So we'll show no vulnerability, meaning no web server detected.
Yep.
Web server running, meaning it's vulnerable and should be looked at. And then also implant detected if the curl command comes back with the right test passing then we'll report that as an
Correct.
implant detected.
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, and obviously the recommendation is to, work with your security teams, work with Cisco around this, right? We're really trying to provide this as, better visibility for infrastructure teams and just give you guys, better view into the data that's already there and tools that are already there, right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And for help on actually getting installed, take a look at the Help Center. So there's an article on the Help Center that actually walks through this. It shows the dashboard, talks about the process and so forth as well. So take a look at this for more detail as well.
and then to get the files required, they just need to open up a support ticket
Yep.
and they'll share it over. Great.
Yep.
Well, hey, Pete, thanks for taking the time on this extra tech talk. I know this is a big one, and so it's um, really great that the team was able to put this together and share it and take some time to talk with us. So thank you so much, and thanks everybody for listening.